Hello and welcome. This is Notibot Yenji. Tonight, we bring you a special report on the ongoing conflicts across the globe. Tensions escalate in the Middle East as Iran and the U.S. engage in a heated standoff, while Israel launches a surge of attacks against Lebanon. We'll also explore the role of cheap drones in the Iran war, China's increasing involvement, and the latest developments in the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Additionally, we'll examine the surprise move by Russia to send drones to Iran and President Trump's latest pressure on Ukraine. Stay with us for our in-depth analysis. We're coming to you live from the Middle East, where tensions are escalating in the region as Iran and the U.S. engage in a critical standoff. Iran's government has rejected the United States' proposal for a ceasefire, dismissing its conditions as unsatisfactory. The U.S. had offered to lift sanctions in exchange for Iran's agreement to halt its missile program and reduce its military presence in the region. However, Iran's foreign minister, Hossein Amir-Abdollahian, claimed that Tehran's own terms, which include reparations for past attacks on Iranian citizens, are the only acceptable way to end the conflict. Meanwhile, Israel has been ramping up its attacks on Iranian targets in Syria, aiming to dismantle Iran's military presence in the country before a potential ceasefire can take hold. The Israeli military has launched several airstrikes on Iranian military sites, killing dozens of Iranian soldiers and civilians. The attacks have also targeted Iranian-backed militias in Lebanon and Iraq. The escalation of violence has raised concerns among regional powers, who are wary of the potential for further instability. The situation has also sparked tensions between the U.S. and Iran, with the Trump administration warning that it would take firm action if Iran continued to pursue its military ambitions. The conflict in Syria has been ongoing for years, with multiple countries involved in the fighting. The involvement of Iran and Israel has added a new layer of complexity to the conflict, with both sides vying for influence in the region. The situation remains fluid, with both sides dug in and refusing to back down. As tensions between Iran and its neighbors continue to escalate, the role of cheap drones in the conflict is emerging as a crucial factor. According to a report by the New York Times, the ongoing conflict in the Middle East has highlighted the critical role that cheap drones play in Iran's military strategy. These unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, have been used to launch attacks on Gulf nations, including oil tankers and military bases, prompting international pressure to disrupt Iran's production and export of drones. The Strait of Hormuz, a vital waterway connecting the Persian Gulf to the Arabian Sea, has been a major flashpoint in the conflict. The Iranian government has consistently warned that any attempt to close the strait would have catastrophic consequences for the global economy. However, Western powers, including the United States, have insisted that their efforts to disrupt Iranian drone production are necessary to ensure regional security. Experts point out that Iranian drones are often produced in small batches and can be easily customized for various military purposes. This has made them a wild card in the conflict, as Iran can quickly adapt to changing circumstances and respond with new attacks. The issue is further complicated by the fact that many Iranian drones are manufactured by domestic companies, which can be difficult to track and regulate. The stakes are high, as the Strait of Hormuz is a critical choke point for global oil supplies. Disrupting Iranian drone production could potentially open the strait and halting Iran's attacks on Gulf nations. However, this goal is fraught with uncertainty, and the international community is struggling to determine the most effective way to achieve it. As tensions escalate in the Middle East, a new player is emerging to capitalize on the ongoing crisis in Iran, with significant financial implications. China has stepped in to mediate the U.S.-Iran conflict, urging Tehran to ensure safe passage for vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian Foreign Minister Saeed Abbas Araghchi made the offer during a phone call with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, stating that the strait remains open to all countries except those at war with Iran. The move comes as China has significant energy investments in the region and was concerned about further escalation threatening its interests. The U.S.-Iran conflict escalated in recent days, with the U.S. deploying 2,000 soldiers to the Middle East, raising concerns of a possible boots-on-the-ground escalation. U.S. President Donald Trump agreed to hold off attacks on Iran's power facilities for 5 days, claiming talks with unspecified Iranians were progressing behind the scenes. China's involvement is seen as a major development in the crisis. Chinese diplomat Zhai Jun met with Iranian ambassador to China Abdulreza Rahmani Fazli in Beijing last week, and the two exchanged views on the current tense situation in the Middle East. This meeting appears to have helped persuade Iran to reevaluate its stance on the conflict. The crisis has significant implications for global oil supplies and prices. The Strait of Hormuz is a critical waterway for oil shipments, and any disruption to it could have far-reaching consequences for the global economy. China's efforts to mediate the conflict are likely to be closely watched by the international community, as they aim to prevent further escalation and ensure the stability of the region. As tensions escalate in the Middle East, a fragile ceasefire begins to unravel, with the US and Iran locked in a heated dispute over defeat. The conflict in Yemen continues to escalate, with the US demanding that Iran accept defeat. The US has presented a 15-point plan to end the war, but an Iranian official has described it as maximalist. The plan, which was presented by US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, calls for an immediate ceasefire, the withdrawal of Iranian forces from Yemen, and the disarming of Houthi rebels. However, Iran's response has been dismissive, with the top Iranian official stating that Tehran's conditions for peace are non-negotiable. According to Iranian state television, the country's conditions for an end to the conflict include the withdrawal of US troops from the region, the lifting of economic sanctions, and the recognition of Iran's legitimate rights in the region. The US has rejected these conditions, with Blinken stating that they are not a basis for negotiations. The US has also warned that it will continue to take military action against Iranian-backed militants in Yemen. The conflict in Yemen has already resulted in thousands of civilian casualties and widespread destruction. The involvement of outside powers, including the US and Iran, has only exacerbated the situation. The international community is now calling for a diplomatic solution to the conflict, but it remains to be seen whether the parties involved can reach a peaceful agreement. The situation in Yemen is a significant concern for global security, with the potential for further escalation and instability in the region. The international community is watching the situation closely, with many calling for a swift resolution to the conflict. According to Western intelligence sources, Russia is reportedly expanding its military presence in Iran with a significant deployment of advanced drones. According to a report from the Financial Times, Russia is on the verge of completing a shipment of drones, medicine, and food to Iran to bolster its war effort against the US and Israel. Senior Iranian and Russian officials began secretly discussing the delivery of drones days after Israel and the US launched their first attack on Tehran last month. The shipment is seen as a significant development, marking the first time Russia has provided lethal support to Iran since the war began. Iran has been a key supplier of Shahid drones, a vital part of Russia's artillery in its war against Ukraine. The delivery of drones to Iran is expected to further escalate the conflict in the region. The move has been welcomed by Iranian officials, who have long sought to strengthen their alliance with Russia. The Kremlin has maintained a close relationship with the Iranian regime, with Russian President Vladimir Putin remaining a close ally to Tehran. The delivery of drones to Iran has raised concerns among Western intelligence officials, who see it as a significant escalation of the conflict. The US and its allies have long been critical of Russia's support for Iran, and the latest development has only added to tensions. The implications of this shipment are significant, with the potential to further destabilize the region. The delivery of drones to Iran by Russia is a stark reminder of the ongoing conflict and the complex web of alliances and rivalries that underpin it. As tensions between Ukraine and Russia continue to escalate, a familiar face from the US is once again stirring up controversy in Kyiv. The situation in Ukraine continues to escalate as Russia launches a massive aerial attack on the country, with reports of drones entering the airspace of neighboring countries Latvia and Estonia. The attack, which began on Tuesday, saw 948 drones launched over a 24-hour period, with cities across Ukraine coming under heavy bombardment. Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, has described the strikes as a clear indication of Vladimir Putin's no real intention of ending this war. According to reports, the scale of the strikes has prompted concerns among international leaders. Dmitry Peskov, a spokesperson for the Kremlin, confirmed that Moscow remains in contact with the US, with the two sides working towards a possible resolution of the conflict. However, with the situation on the ground showing no signs of improvement, analysts are saying that Putin's spring offensive has begun. The recent increase in aerial attacks on Ukraine has raised questions about the effectiveness of the international response to the conflict. The US and its allies have imposed sanctions on Russia, but some are calling for stronger action to be taken. With the situation continuing to deteriorate, it is clear that the international community needs to take a more decisive stance on the conflict in Ukraine. The impact of the attack on Ukraine is also having a ripple effect on the global economy. Major export terminals in Russia's Baltic ports have suspended crude oil and oil products loadings, with smoke visible from Finland. The incident highlights the fragility of global supply chains and the need for greater cooperation in the face of growing tensions between major world powers. That's all for today's news recap. Thank you for watching. We'll continue to bring you updates on the ongoing conflict in Iran and other global developments. If you'd like to stay informed on these and other breaking news stories, be sure to subscribe to our channel and follow us on social media. We'll see you in the next video.